Okay, you ready?
I was definitely bullied a lot, especially as an immigrant, and I wasn't like able to speak the language very well.
And a lot of people, probably because of the media,
it makes me feel like sometimes like angry due to like how like people really talk about it, like, oh, it's not racist because like of this, or it's not racist because of that, like it's just a word. Like I feel angry.
Racism is the prejudice towards a specific group of people, ethnically.
So racism is believing that someone is inferior to you based on their race.
So to me, racism would be like prejudice against a group of people based on like baseless remarks about their race that are demeaning and cruel.
Racism, I feel, is the separation of people based off of their color of their skin most of the time, but mostly based off of ethnicity and really origin of family, I guess you could say.
A lot of people have made comments, and it could be random people or people that I know, but they'll just make mean comments. I follow the religion of Islam, so I'm automatically categorized as a terrorist when I have no interest in bombing anyone.
Especially as an immigrant, and I wasn't like able to speak the language very well, so a lot of people would say like racial slurs to me.
The only experience I know would be like my mom's when she first came to America. She was heavily discriminated against.
Because of like middle school, everyone like here and there would like either say like the N-word or like, because like I'm half black, so maybe sometimes.
So many people when I was younger in my own grade told me that there was no reason for me to be Catholic because of my skin color, even though anyone can be Catholic. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. I've had people turn me down for dates because their families didn't want to have to deal with their child dating someone from another ethnicity. And people have told me that I'm going to need to seek outside help when I go to college because my parents are both immigrants and don't understand the American education system, even though both of my parents went to college here. So yeah, I would say that I've had to face a little bit of racism in my lifetime.
I mean, it affected my mom because like when she was working in hospitals, people wouldn't want to work with her because of her skin color, and it was always like older white people, and so like that just affected like how she was treated. And then she'd come home and she'd be really sad, and so that made me sad, but I never really understood what she was going through.
I think when I was younger, it didn't really affect me as much because I didn't really understand what it meant. But as I got older, the racial slurs were explained to me, and I had a better understanding of like what they were actually saying to me.
It's kind of made me more aware that like not everyone is going to be accepting of like your beliefs, and like the best you could do is project yourself as like the opposite of that so they don't think that way.
When I was younger, it was really shocking to me because I didn't understand why people were treating me differently because of my race. But now, and this kind of scares me, I'm honestly kind of used to people thinking of me differently because I'm not part of the majority of what the race is here in this state and even in the United States.
I mean, of course it did affect me because like it's hurtful, but you just learn to get over it, I guess.
I think based off of the past, it definitely has evolved a bit. I think issues are still here, especially we've seen this through police force and other instances, but it can definitely still be improved.
Needs to be developed because I feel like it hasn't been getting better because not a lot of people know about these causes.
I think it's something that needs to be developed because, especially with our new presidency, I think there's like a new wave of like racism and discrimination in the world, or at least in our country with Trump's administration, because now demeaning words are normalized by social media, and in schools especially, people are using them as though they're okay.
A lot of people still need to work on like things they say, things they do, how they act in front of certain people of like a different race or a different religion. It could either be because they're like they don't know a lot about the religion, so they're just going off based on what like they see or like what people tell them, or it could just be they know and they like want to make fun of it. It has gotten better over the years, but some people still need to like keep their eye open.
I feel like it's kind of sad to an extent because obviously I don't feel that racism, but I know that there's a lot of people who deal with it on a daily basis, and that's part of their life, and it's just a constant struggle for them.
It makes me feel uneasy, I guess, because most of the racist comments that people receive are they're not aware of what they're talking about, or they don't understand what they're talking about.
In a sense, I feel like a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about racism, but in a sense, I feel very empowered when I talk about it, just because of the fact that like because I've experienced through it, I could talk to people about my experience, and people have a better understanding of like what it is to be treated like that, and then what it actually is to be racist.
Because other people understand that it's wrong, and that makes me think that there's still hope that someday there could be a world without any racism in it. But I have gotten into conversations with people who don't think that it's a real thing or who think that it's trivial, and that honestly makes me really upset, the fact that people don't understand what a grave situation this is.
No, because like our school is so diverse, people aren't really racist here.
To have that many cultures, I don't think we experience a lot of racism.
Yeah, not just our school, but like all of the schools in our country. I think it's a big issue because kids our age are still developing, so they don't really understand what's appropriate and what's not, so it's worser.
There's a somewhat of a problem, but not as much as like outside of our school, which is kind of good, but also like we could be doing better because there still is like a tiny bit left. Yeah.
We should inform the people on other cultures and religions so that this doesn't happen again.
One of the ways that we could do it, because for our generation I feel like it might kind of be too late, but for younger generations, schools should teach younger children, especially those who come from like households where they're taught that their race is better or that they're entitled to more things. From a very young age, I think that we should be taught that no one is better than anyone based on their race or where they grew up or what country their parents came from. Because when you're younger, it has a bigger impact on you, because if you grow up hearing that, especially if you're taught something different in your house, it can have a profound impact on you in the way you treat other people, because sometimes it's hard for people to change what they were taught when they were younger.
It's obviously inclusion, and I feel like if there are more large positive influences, such as even just recently with President Obama, just him being there and being a president of color, even if he's the first, it definitely helps, as younger kids in lower communities can see this guy was against all odds, but he made it, I can be like him. And I feel like that's very important for kids in our society, to see people like them who are able to do that and not just another white guy.
To be more just culturally aware of other people's backgrounds.
I think that we should help the young kids who are growing up in a community where that's prevalent, because if you impact the younger community, then you can probably set up as they grow older, a less racist environment.